Bloomberg Audio Studios.
Podcasts, radio, news.
This is Bloomberg Businessweek with Carol Massar and Tim Stenovec on Bloomberg Radio.
I was out in California last week.
Classic.
I know you know that because you were filling in for Carol and me here in the studio.
It was super fun, actually.
Good. It's always fun.
Yeah.
This is a fun show.
It is a fun show.
We have a lot of fun. We got a great team also that makes it really fun.
So
They're in the
true.
control room right now. But we left the event, Bloomberg Screen Time, and I was walking in Hollywood on the sidewalks of Hollywood, California with my brother, walking to his car because that's what you do in LA.
Which brother?
My brother, Michael.
He's funny.
He's very funny. I'm glad you know him.
Yeah.
He is very funny. And we ran into this little robot on the sidewalk. And it was not something you see in New York City. So for me...
Did you take a bat to it?
No! It's very rude.
I know, but
just because there's no person inside of it doesn't mean you should take a bat to it.
I wouldn't put anything past an American. Anyway,
I've seen him on the streets of Santa Monica before, but never Hollywood. So this is the first time seeing it on the sidewalks of Hollywood. And it was delivering something to somebody.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was a robot from our next guest, co-founder and CEO of Serve Robotics, Ali Kashani, who joins us from Redwood City, California, which is the headquarters of Serve Robotics. Ali, was this one of your robots? It looked exactly like the ones that I see on your website. Was this one of yours?
I'm pretty sure they're very unique. And Katie, come on, that's your first reaction hearing about robots?
I'm sorry. So for a little bit of context, I had Ali Kashani on the TV show a couple of weeks ago, probably a month or two ago at this point. And Ali, I did ask you that how often people attack these robots, and you said not too often.
Yes, that's right. It's they're actually kind of like a mailbox at this point. They're just doing their thing and people just pass by. Sometimes people can be curious, especially children, but overall they're very well received and accepted in the community.
Well, that had a camera on it, and my brother said, I think it's actually I'm just looking for a photo. I think I took a picture of it. My brother said, actually, I think they're operated by somebody remotely. Are versions of these operated remotely? I know the newest thing that you announced today is not operated remotely. Are older versions of these operated remotely?
So they're all what we call level 4 autonomous, which means that they can do a lot of things by themselves. So there's a good chance when you saw it, it was actually navigating by itself. But if it actually needs help, it can ask for help and someone can help remotely.
Oh, interesting. So it's a mix. It's kind of just like, you'd have the way they thought about driverless cars back in the day. They haven't implemented it yet this way, but it's like you kind of ring a bell if you're in a sticky situation.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. So talk to us about level 4 automation here, because I don't think Ed Ludlow, who covers this stuff all the time, understands levels 1
That's
through 4.
That's like his bat signal, basically.
Yeah. But for the normal person, what are the different levels of autonomy?
Yeah, I guess the best way to explain it is if you have a Tesla, it's level 2, which means you have to have your hands on the steering and eyes on the road. And then the highest level is level 5, which is when the robot or the vehicle never needs any help at all. It can do everything 100% by itself, which if you ask folks in this space will tell you is mostly sci-fi. Level 4 is the holy grail, where robots can actually move independently by themselves quite a lot of the times, but whenever they're outside of their comfort zone, someone can help them. And when you think about it financially, there's a point at which automation doesn't make any more financial sense, because let's say a flight controller sitting somewhere looking at hundreds of planes, that's perfectly fine use of human intelligence, and it makes a lot of sense to actually keep humans in the loop at that level. But the important thing is that the robots can do a lot of things by themselves, and that's where a lot of the leverage and automation comes in.
I find this so delightful. I know I made a joke at the very top
about beating them?
About taking a bat to one of these robots, but
that's an interesting turn that you've had in such a short time.
I mean, I just, I find it endearing. These little robots.
They have these cute eyes on them.
Yeah, they're buzzing around. They're giving you food. I'm in New York, though. I've never seen one, of course. I don't spend a lot of time in California. What are your expansion plans? I mean, what other cities are you potentially thinking about here?
Yeah, we have plans to come to new cities next year. As soon as in Q2, we are going to have our next major market beyond LA. First, we are going to expand in more LA neighborhoods in Q1. We have 250 more robots in Q1 being deployed. And then by the end of the year, we are going to have 2,000 robots, and we are going to launch a few more cities, which we'll have more to share about that soon. We have recently discussed the fact that we'll be doing a pilot in Dallas with Wing, which is a subsidiary of Alphabet. They make drones, where our robots pick up items from restaurants and then hand them over automatically to a drone that would then bring them a few miles away, a distance that the robot can't do. So it's a really cool collaboration where robots do half of deliveries that are short distance, drones do the other half that are long distance.
Gotta
so
get your
Dallas would
fries.
be one of the next places you would see them.
I dream of a future where I can just open my window and get my fries delivered.
Good luck in New York City.
I don't want to go downstairs. Well, I was going to ask about New York City because, okay, in New York City, I feel like one of these robots would get attacked like immediately.
Yeah.
And Ali, the question I have for you is, what's your ideal city? Obviously, these robots work in LA. You're thinking about, expanding to Dallas. What is the ideal makeup, both in terms of sort of the temperament of the people, but also the geography of the city that would work for these robots?
Yeah, it's really first and foremost the question of where are our partners mostly concentrated in. So Uber is the largest player in LA. So it makes a ton of sense for us to start there, and LA being the second largest market in the country. New York is the largest market, so it's just a matter of time before you see robots there. But given the distribution, effectively, the partnerships that we have in place, we've started in Los Angeles. But most cities in the country would have a need for robots because restaurants are usually in very congested areas where you have more car traffic, more parking issues. And within that business, couple miles of that business district, you have a lot of population, so they can benefit from robots.
New York's a unique market, though. We have the e-bikes and the delivery people. So I don't know. I would like to see how it would work here.
If you get hit by one of those e-bikes, boy, that would hurt.
Hurt a lot more than getting hit by one of these robots that only goes 7 miles an hour. Hey, Ali, before we let you go, very briefly, how much do these cost? We only have 20 seconds left, but give us the cost equation here.
We don't share the BOM costs, but they cost half as much as the last robots we were building. So we are bringing that cost down, and they cost less than a brand new car, the cheapest brand new car you can buy in the US.
Wow, so they're pretty expensive.
I would say they're pretty cheap. With all that smarts, the sensors, the computers on board, they're pretty reasonably priced.
And I imagine they're going to be getting cheaper and cheaper with the technology. Really cool stuff. It's a publicly held company, ticker SERV. The company stock up 4.5% today. Ali Kashani, co-founder and CEO of Serve Robotics. This is Bloomberg. The hospitality market expected to grow to nearly $5 trillion this year.
I would believe it.
You do?
Yeah. Americans, they love experiences, they love going places, and they love eating.
Well, several factors. Wellness tourism, flexible booking options, sustainability initiatives, collaboration, and health and safety standards.
That all sounds right.
And they love going places.
Absolutely.
Longevity in senior living facilities also a factor, and that's where our next guest comes in. Let's get to Richard Schenkel, founder and executive chairman of Restaura Hospitality Group. It is looking to bring tech and innovation to senior living. He joins us from Waltham, Massachusetts. Richard, the founder and former CEO at Unidine, which provides food and dining management services across the country for senior living facilities, community hospitals, behavioral health clients, corporate environments, and more. Good to have you with us this afternoon, Richard. Give us an idea of the white space that you see here, because you've spent some 3 decades in the larger hospitality business. What's missing when it comes to senior living facilities?
The marketplace, and thank you, Tim, and thank you, everybody, for having us on right today. The hospitality industry focused on senior living is about 20 years behind the times in innovation. And as we looked at the launch of Restaura, we spent the last 18 months with market research and really trying to understand what that active adult lifestyle community in senior living really wants. And what really came out is they want choice. As we go back in life, as most of us will remember, airports were probably the most stoic type of business where there was no freedom of choice. And now we look today, whether it's local brands, national brands, or things to do when you're in an airport, it's humbly very different. In our opinion, the same thing went on in the college and university marketplace, where back many, many years ago, it was just a board plan. You received 3 meals a day, 2 meals certain days, and that was it in one dining room. And senior living has
Yeah, I
some of
remember
those
when my
good
parents dropped me
responses.
off at college, they were like, oh, this is why tuition is so expensive. Why are they spending all the money on the dining hall and on the lawns and on the dorms?
Right, right. And if you look at colleges and universities, some of the kind of C&U business has some of the best reputations from a culinary perspective. Then you go over to senior living, and I spent a large part of my career in it, and it hasn't evolved.
Mm.
There are three major competitors in it, and it's a very stoic, poorly innovative marketplace.
It's a good
Yeah.
point. I know from experience visiting my grandma.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Richard, I'm curious. I mean, we'll get into what you're trying to do and how you're trying to change that. But why do you think that's the case? I mean, you bring up some great points when it comes to college, even when it comes to airports, for example, the dining options getting better. Why do you think we haven't seen that same energy being brought to senior living, even though the population is aging?
Well, I think it was a couple of different things. Number one, the type of active adult that was prior in senior living was very comfortable with just one choice or two. I think as the market has changed and you look at the boomers coming in and just even active adults, 65 and 70 and 75, they're a lot more sophisticated today. If you kind of look at the restaurant industry 30 years ago, it's very much evolved. And I believe right now, as these active adult and senior living, continuing care, or types of communities go up, it is a much more sophisticated consumer today that has an expectation. Some market research that we did prior to launch, only 7% of the individuals looking at senior living active adult communities felt it would meet their food and dining needs. 93% felt it would never meet the mark of really great dining. That's a major disconnect.
I'm wondering about the cost equation here and how that looks for senior dining, for senior living facilities. These places, Richard, as you know, can be incredibly expensive.
That's correct. And I think given that, we're looking at the marketplace and saying, why isn't there the opportunity to upgrade the dining services, offer variety, choice, things like pop-up restaurants, with proprietary brands launching there, to offer that, what we'll call consumer, those choices, and be able to keep them within the confines of that community by offering them that high level dining experience when they want it, but also offering them to other things besides high level dining.
And it's interesting. I mean, I'm curious, how tech plays into it, because you point out in your notes that when we think about, the shift from cafeteria style when it comes to colleges to a really tech forward experience. I mean, how do you incorporate tech into what you're doing?
Yeah, well, we spent the last 18 months pre-launch of October 1st envisioning what technology would be. And the industry is definitely a laggard in that area. Just imagine you walk into a dining room by a facility operated by Restaura, and by the end of the meal, we have technology that will allow that executive C-suite, as well as us, to know how we did, what they liked, why they liked it, and what they didn't like, and be able to immediately change anything from a menu offering the next day. But getting the results immediately of what we'll call consumer satisfaction, uh, and analytics on a dashboard for both us internally, as well as our consumer there, as well as the executive suite, can be a complete game changer for those facilities. It's never been done. Today
Richard,
we
I
go
want
in
to
and
jump
get our
in.
car fixed,
Yeah.
and I use the analogy, we get constant updates of how that car is getting fixed, what they're doing, and at the end, are you satisfied? In senior living, I can tell you 9 times out of 10, a once-a-year survey of how the food and dining is completed, and that's unacceptable in today's day and age from a consumer perspective.
What's the technology that the end user has to interact with? I'm not talking about the executives at the place. I'm not talking about the staff who works there. What about the tech that somebody like my grandmother would have to interact with?
Right. Yeah, it's very interesting. We spent a lot of time, and what we came to find out is, the phone, whether we call it an iPhone or Samsung, a smartphone is what almost every one of them have in a facility. And we are very much involved in, building out, and we have built out the applications that will allow that person internally to be able to get us information as well as for us to push information to them. And it hasn't been done. We've done things like paper surveys. They are so outdated in today's day and age.
Yeah, I have to say, I mean, I don't know. I think of my own grandmom who's in her 90s. She was using Uber up until a few years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
My grandma doesn't even have a smartphone.
We have very different grandmothers.
But she's 102. Actually, tomorrow's her birthday.
Oh my gosh.
Her 102nd birthday, yeah.
Wow, no kidding. Oh, yeah. Well, anyway, we have different grandmoms. Mine's 95, so she's not too far.
That's like almost, yeah.
Yeah.
So she uses a smartphone, obviously, because she has...
Yeah, she loves emojis and stuff. I text her all the time. Anyway.
That's awesome.
Richard, I am curious. Talk to us about how you make money, because you think about your last venture in this space, for example. You point out in your notes that you delivered a 900% return to shareholders. Talk us through, again, obviously, we know the opportunity set here that you see and what you're doing about it. How do you make money?
Yeah, so it's fundamentally on on-site food service type of operations. We have two ways that we get involved. We operate on a cost plus basis where we have different overheads and fees built in. And then we also operate a lot of the times on what we'll call profits loss arrangement, where we'll guarantee all our operating costs. And obviously, if we operate the way we envision, there's profit. And if we don't, we take risk on that end. And we make guarantees throughout our agreements. So it's pretty fundamentally a business that provides margin back to us.
How hard is it to get into these facilities that have been working with incumbents for years and might have long-term contracts?
Well, what I would say is, I'll give you some statistics. About 85% of the senior living marketplace, which is 30 to 40 billion, is not outsourced. They presently are self-operated. The other 15% is outsourced to competitors. So there's a huge amount of white space to be focused on. And how we look at that other 15%, we don't believe we are building or have built Restaura to compete with the other companies. We think we have such a creative, innovative approach. We also, as part of our whole value proposition, I've provided back to all of our employees over 30% of the company in equity to our employees. All of our employees are owners of the company. We subscribe and are a participant with Ownership Works in New York City, a not-for-profit. And I think we're one of the first startups that they've ever involved themselves in, where a percent of the company was provided prior to the company being profitable.
Wow. Okay. What's your outlook in terms of how you roll this out, when you roll it out? We have 30 seconds left. Give us an update on timing here.
Right. We started October 1st after 18 months in stealth mode. We are in constant communication with prospective clients now. We're coast to coast from the east to the west provider. And we envision that over a very short period of time, we already have many prospective clients that we are moving forward with. And as I said, we have just spent the last 18 months making sure our systems, technology, and culinary resources are in place. Executive team has been hired, and we're right now already involved with some clients.
All right, Richard, come back, visit us again. Richard Schenkel, founder and executive chairman of Restaura Hospitality Group, looking to bring tech and innovation to senior living, joining us this afternoon from Waltham, Massachusetts.